The sun bled low across the horizon, a wound torn open over the endless stretch of the Wyoming prairie. Dust curled behind a lone rider, clinging to the battered folds of his coat as he urged his weary horse forward. Jake Callahan didn't dare glance back. He could hear them, hard men with harder aims, shouting over the rhythmic pound of hooves. The old Mustang stumbled on a jagged stone. Jake cursed under his breath, spurring it onward, but he knew the animal couldn't last much longer. Blood trickled down his thigh, where a bullet had grazed him an hour earlier. The scent of iron and sweat mixed with the dry tang of dust. Another shot cracked the air, slicing past his ear. Jake tightened his grip on the reins. Not here, not like this. A stand of cottonwoods appeared ahead, silhouetted against the darkening sky. If he could reach the trees, maybe he could lose them. Gritting his teeth, Jake kicked the Mustang into a desperate sprint. The world became a blur of wind and firelight sky. For a breathless moment, he thought he might just make it. Then the horse stumbled again, this time falling hard. Jake hit the ground, the impact slamming the breath from his chest. Pain exploded in his side. He rolled onto his back just in time to see his pursuers crest the ridge, black shapes against the dying light. No choice. He scrambled toward the trees, boots sliding on loose earth. Gunfire erupted behind him, hot lead digging craters into the dirt. A burning branch, lightning struck from a storm cloud overhead, crashed down nearby, sending embers into the twilight. Using the smoke as cover, Jake dragged himself into the cottonwoods and disappeared. Miles away, Clara Whitmore stood at the edge of her ranch, a rifle resting in the crook of her arm. Dark clouds bruised the sky, promising a storm. She studied the field stretching before her, the grazing cattle little more than smudges against the land. Another long day near its end. She shifted her weight, feeling the dull ache in her lower back. Work that once took two men now fell to her alone. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the broken fence line she hadn't had time to mend. Tomorrow's problem. She turned back toward the cabin, boots sinking slightly in the dampening soil. As she passed the barn, a low, unfamiliar sound carried on the wind, a thud, a groan, something heavy hitting the ground. She froze. Hand tightening around the rifle stock, Clara crept forward. Another groan. She edged around the barn's corner and found a man crumpled just beyond the fence. His face was obscured by mud and tangled hair, but even from a distance, Clara saw the blood darkening his shirt. A drifter, she thought grimly. Trouble. For a long moment, she considered leaving him. Strangers brought nothing but hardship. She had learned that the hard way, had buried the man she loved because he trusted the wrong folks. Yet as the first fat drops of rain splattered the earth, something stubborn inside her shifted. She couldn't walk away. Muttering a curse, Clara approached, rifle still raised. The man stirred weakly as she crouched beside him. His lips moved, forming broken words. Trouble coming, run. A cold finger traced the length of Clara's spine. She scanned the open land behind him. Shadows moved beyond the tree line, too large, too fast for coyotes. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. No time to think. She grabbed the stranger under the arms, gritting her teeth against his dead weight, and half-dragged, half-carried him toward the barn. The storm broke overhead with a crack of thunder, so loud it rattled her bones. Inside, she laid him on a pile of old feed sacks. Rain hammered the tin roof. She checked the man's pockets. No weapons, no badge. His hands were calloused, his knuckles scarred. A man used to fighting. Not law, but not necessarily lawless. She found a coil of rope and bound his wrists loosely, just in case. The drifter stirred, blinking up at her through feverish eyes. "Where?" he rasped. "You're on my land," Clara said coolly. "Don't get comfortable. Come morning, you're moving on." His mouth twitched into a shadow of a smile. "Wouldn't dream of staying, miss." Lightning flared again, illuminating the barn's interior. In that stark flash, Clara saw something outside, just beyond the far window. Movement. Every instinct screamed at her. They were being hunted. And she had just brought the hunter's quarry straight to her doorstep. Jake woke hours later to the smell of damp straw and the creak of wood. His wrists were tied, but loosely enough that he could probably slip free if needed. He didn't move. The woman sat across from him, a rifle laid across her lap. Her hair was a mess of copper and gold, half pulled back, half tumbling down. Her eyes, sharp, unyielding, never wavered from his face. "You're awake," she said, without inflection. Jake flexed his fingers. "Appreciate the hospitality. Mind untying me?" "Not yet." Jake couldn't blame her. Hell, if the roles were reversed, he wouldn't trust himself either. He shifted, biting back a grunt as pain lanced through his side. "You're hurt," she said. "Not the first time. Won't be the last." She didn't smile. "Who's chasing you?" Jake studied her. She didn't scare easy. Maybe she'd stand a chance when they came. "Know when you want to meet," he said finally. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." Outside, the storm raged harder. Rain sheeted down in furious torrents, turning the yard into a quagmire. In the lulls between thunder, Jake caught another sound. Horses. Multiple. Close. "They found me," he said. Clara's grip on the rifle tightened. She rose and crossed to the barn door, peering through a crack. Jake watched her silhouette, outlined against the flashes of lightning. He liked the way she moved, carefully, deliberately, like someone who knew how to survive. "You brought a damn army to my ranch," she muttered. "Didn't mean to." "You think that matters to them?" Jake pushed himself upright with a grunt. "Untie me." Clara hesitated. "If they get me, fine," Jake said. "But they won't stop there. You're a witness. They'll burn this place to the ground and bury you under it." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a swift motion, she cut the rope. Jake rubbed his wrists, nodding his thanks. The horses circled outside, just beyond the light. Shadows moved like wolves in the rain. Jake glanced around the barn. No real cover. No easy exits. "You armed?" he asked. Clara lifted the rifle. Jake allowed a grim smile. "Good." A shot rang out, splintering the barn door. Clara flinched, but didn't duck. Jake grabbed a pitchfork from the wall, more weapon than tool now. "Stay low," he told her. "They want you," she said. "Maybe I give you to them." Jake met her gaze. "You could. Or you could fight." Another bullet punched through the wall inches from her head. Clara gritted her teeth. She hated being pushed, hated feeling helpless. She remembered kneeling by her husband's body, the bullet hole in his chest, the law riding away with dust in their wake. No, not again. She chambered a round into the rifle. "Fine," she said. "But after this, you're still leaving." Jake's grin was brief and bloodthirsty. "Fair enough." They moved together to the barn door. The rain had eased into a steady patter, making every noise outside sharper. A man's voice called out, "Hand him over, lady. We don't want no trouble with you." Clara stepped forward, heart thundering. Jake stayed just behind her, a solid, unyielding presence. "You've already got trouble," she shouted back. A beat of silence. Then the crack of a rifle, and chaos descended. The rifle's report split the night, echoing across the sodden fields. Clara dropped behind the trough, heart hammering, as splinters of wood exploded around her. Jake yanked her down hard, shielding her with his body without a second thought. Another bullet zipped past, biting into the ground where they had just stood. "They're trying to drive us out," Clara shouted over the rain. Jake's mouth twisted grimly. "They'll burn you out if you let 'em." A crack of thunder rolled over the hills as Jake peered through a jagged hole in the barn wall. 3 riders circled beyond the outer fence, rifles slung low. A 4th crouched nearer, trying to flank. Amateurs. They had numbers, but not strategy. "We pick off the closest one," Jake said, voice low and even. "Show 'em we ain't scared." Clara nodded, wiping rain from her brow. Every muscle inside her screamed to run, to hide, but she locked it down. Fear wouldn't save her. Action might. Jake counted under his breath, then popped up and fired the old revolver he'd scavenged from Clara's barn supplies. The lead scout crumpled with a howl. The others jerked in surprise, pulling back toward the tree line. "That's right, you bastards," Jake muttered. "Come and get it." The pause gave them precious seconds. Clara scrambled to reload, fingers slick. Her nerves wanted to betray her, but she forced herself into calm. She wasn't that widow standing helpless at her husband's grave anymore. She was the last Whitmore standing, and she intended to stay that way. Jake caught her eye, a question unspoken. "What now?" she asked. They regroup or they panic. Either way, we take the fight to M before they get brave. A feral grin pulled at her lips. She wasn't just surviving tonight, she was fighting back. Moving low between the troughs and barrels, they worked their way to the side of the barn. Jake gestured toward the cattle pen. "They'll expect us to hole up. Let's go around." The air smelled of wet wood, gunpowder, and churned mud. Every step sucked at Clara's boots, but she pressed on. Jake moved like a ghost beside her, all raw efficiency. Whoever he had been before this night, he knew how to survive, and she found herself drawing strength from his steadiness. They slipped behind the collapsed fence line. A few yards away, one of the gunmen had dismounted, searching the shadows. Jake held up a hand, signaling wait. The man passed within arm's reach. Jake moved. A silent flash of motion. Jake slammed the butt of his gun into the man's temple. He dropped like a sack of grain. Clara barely suppressed a gasp. 1 down. 3 to go. The rain eased into a misting drizzle. Steam rose from the earth, twisting into phantom shapes. Somewhere nearby, a horse snorted nervously. The attackers called out to each other, voices edged with fear. "Eli? You see him?" "Nothing." "They ska man." Jake flashed a grim smile at Clara. "We ain't gone," he whispered. "We're just getting started." Before they could press forward, Clara touched his arm, urgency in her eyes. "Why are they after you?" Jake's smile faded. "Pinkerton," he said quietly. "Used to be, anyhow. Caught the wrong men, made the wrong enemies. Now I'm a bounty." He left it there, but it was enough. Clara knew about wrong choices, about trusting the wrong folks. She nodded. She didn't need more explanation. Right now he was standing between her and the grave, and that was good enough. The wind shifted, bringing with it the faint smell of smoke. Clara stiffened. "They're trying to burn the barn." Jake cursed under his breath. "They want to flush us." No time to circle wider. No clever traps. They had to hit now, or everything she had left would turn to ash. Jake and Clara broke from cover at the same time. Gunfire tore the air, deafening in its fury. Clara dropped to one knee and fired, catching a rider in the shoulder. He spun from his saddle, landing hard. Jake ducked and returned fire at the last two. One dove behind a wagon. The other turned tail and bolted into the trees. A lull fell over the ranch, broken only by the crackle of flames licking the barn's roof. Jake grabbed Clara's hand. "We gotta put out." Together they tore into the barn. Smoke curled down from aloft, choking and bitter. Clara coughed as she threw open the rain barrel outside, filling buckets as fast as she could. Jake climbed onto the roof, hacking away the burning sections with a hatchet. Sparks showered him, but he didn't stop. Minutes stretched into lifetimes. By the time the last smoldering ember died, Clara's arms shook with exhaustion. Jake slid from the roof, limping slightly. Soot smeared his face, making his eyes gleam like coals. They stood there a moment, breathing hard, surrounded by the wreckage of the night. Clara wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "You should go," she said hoarsely. Jake studied her, really studied her. Not just a stubborn rancher anymore. A fighter. "You want me to?" The question sat heavy between them. "I don't know," she admitted. Jake smiled, then a small, broken thing. "You saved my life. Twice now." She shrugged, awkward under his gaze. "Call it evening the scales." "No," Jake said. "It's more than that." For a second, Clara let herself imagine a different future. A partner who didn't just take, but fought beside her. Someone who understood loss, who knew survival wasn't the same as living. The sound of hoofbeats shattered the fragile moment. Both turned toward the ridge. A lone rider approached, but something was different. The horse stumbled, almost collapsing, and the figure slumped in the saddle. Jake raised his gun, but Clara grabbed his arm. "Wait." The rider fell from the horse, yards away. Clara approached cautiously, gun ready. It was one of the attackers, the young one who had bolted earlier. A boy no older than 18, bleeding badly from a gut wound. He looked up at Clara with wide, desperate eyes. "They lied to us, said he stole gold," he gasped, pointing at Jake. Jake crouched beside him, jaw tight. "I didn't steal anything," Jake said. "I found out who did." The boy coughed, blood flecking his lips. "Didn't want to die, didn't want to kill nobody." Clara felt something in her chest twist. Jake closed the boy's eyes when the end came. The storm had passed. Only the aftermath remained. In the coming days, Jake helped Clara rebuild. Fences mended. Barn patched. Graves dug where needed. The work was hard, but they moved together like gears meshing, each anticipating the other's needs. One evening, as the sky burned with another bloody sunset, Jake found Clara sitting on the porch, cleaning her rifle. He dropped a battered saddlebag at her feet. "What's that?" "Proof I didn't steal that gold. Letters. Ledgers. Enough to clear my name, if anyone still cares." Clara met his gaze. "What will you do with it?" Jake shrugged. "Could ride east. Try to start fresh. Maybe find some place where nobody knows my name." She stared out across the land. The cattle moved slowly, the horizon endless and open. "You could stay," she said, voice almost lost in the wind. Jake's lips quirked. "I ain't much for settlin', Clara." She smiled, a rare soft thing. "Maybe you just ain't found the right place yet." Jake sat beside her, boots thudding against the porch boards. Maybe he hadn't. For a long while they said nothing, letting the evening wrap around them like an old blanket. The future was uncertain, sure as winter following fall. But for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. Out in the distance, a coyote howled, a lonely, wavering sound that faded into the deepening night. Jake leaned back, arms behind his head, and watched the stars prick through the indigo sky. Sometimes, he thought, you don't choose where you belong. Sometimes it chooses you. The narrator's voice cut in, low and reflective. Out here, trust is harder earned than gold, and twice as rare. Clara Whitmore thought she'd buried her heart with her past. Jake Callahan figured he was too far gone to save. Turns out, life still had some surprises left for them both. A soft pause, like the earth itself taking a breath. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, partners, ride steady and keep your heart wide open. The screen faded to black, leaving only the whisper of the wind.